Okay, well, nobody's joined me yet. I get started a couple minutes late here because it's got a new laptop, so I had to download the plugin and make a few changes here to get it to work. But anyway, for week 3, if you are in AOC1, you will be studying NS date, so that you can get the current date and put that in your program. UI image view, so that you can start adding images to your apps, which should be a way to make them a lot more interesting. UI text field, so that you can take information from the user when they type things into a text field. Launching Safari, which will allow you to make apps that are native but then move from the native code into Safari. And File Manager, which will teach you about saving files in on the system. Oh, hi, Melanie.
Hi, sorry I'm late. It didn't pull my email in until just a couple minutes ago, so.
Yeah, I got a new laptop, so I had to put the Gmail addresses back in, and I had to actually add a new plug-in to get the thing to work. So I was a few minutes late getting started here.
No problem. I thought that I had missed it completely, so I'm glad that wasn't the case.
I was just going through what we're going to be covering for this week. Do you have questions or comments to make about last week's assignment?
No. The feedback that you gave on the actual graded part was awesome. It really helped me to understand where I'd gone wrong, so thank you for that.
You're welcome. Yeah, I try to help you figure out, how you can correct it, so you can improve from there.
So, but I think that last week I just kind of got overwhelmed with it. Really, it quit clicking, and then I missed the Hangouts, and yeah, it was a long week.
If you're able to get started with it earlier, so that you can ask questions if you run into a brick wall, then it will help because you have time to make the corrections.
I had been trying. I should have contacted you way before I did. So whenever I first got lost, instead of beating my head on the desk for 3 hours trying to figure out where I lost what was going on. So.
Well, you're not any different from most of the students in that respect. I think most people try to, they try to see if they can't figure it out on their own, and sometimes they wait a little too long before they decide to ask for help. But anyway, hopefully you were able to understand my suggestions and get a better idea what to do from there.
Definitely.
Great. So how's this week going for you?
Pretty well. I'm to the practice 12. I'm feeling pretty comfortable, pretty confident. Moving forward, I've already set up my project for this week, so that as we're going through, I can kind of make notes. Hey, this was mentioned here, and this part was here, so that I can go back and rewatch.
Okay, great. Okay, I was just going through what you guys are going to be doing this week. So you're going to be learning about NS date, so you can get the date from the system to use in your program. UI image view, so you can put pictures in your images in your program, so that can make things a lot more interesting. UI text field, so you can get text input from the user, which is certainly a useful thing. File Manager, so that you can check to see if a file is on your system, and if so, you can figure out where it is, and so you can save files to the system, which will certainly be useful as well. And then launching Safari, so you can actually start to make hybrid applications where you start out with native code and then jump to Safari. This lesson is a little bit limited. In this case, you're jumping out to Safari, and there's really not a way to get back in. So back into your native code. So in MDF1, you'll be learning a little more about how to do that so that you are still in your native code and you can come back to what you were doing. But this is just the beginning look at jumping from your code into Safari. All right, then we have custom classes. So you're going to start learning how to make your own classes. How to access classes. This is talking about, we have three different modes of access. We have public, private, and protected. So you'll be learning the differences between those classes, between those access modes, and how to use those. We're going to be learning about static methods, which are known as class methods in some other programming languages, as opposed to instance methods, which is what you've been using so far. Private methods. So if you don't want a method to be available from outside the current class, if you want it to just be only seen by the current class, you can make a private method. Now, in the past, you weren't really able to make private methods. You could sort of fudge it, but it wasn't really secure from other access. But in iOS 7, you are actually able to do that a little better. And then you're going to start to learn about storyboards. So there's an introduction to storyboards, information about interfacing the IB and storyboards with code, how to make a storyboard with two views and move from one to the other, using prepare for segue, which is used to pass information between views and to move back and forth between views, protocols and delegates, which is sort of the tricky part of this week's learning, and passing data with a custom delegate. So watch the videos on protocols and delegates and passing data with a custom delegate carefully. Ask questions about that if you need to. Protocols and delegates are one way to pass information between parts of the program. We're going to be learning another way to do it with storyboards next week. You can also use protocols and delegates for other uses. So it's a way to have one part of the program do something for another part of the program, because in Objective-C we use what's called an MVC architecture, which is a model, view, controller. So we kind of split up the functionality of the app into three different areas: the model, the view, and the controller. And the view, for example, should really not do anything but put UI elements on the screen and take input from the user. So just the UI stuff. And it really shouldn't do any calculation. So that should be done either by the model or the controller. So far, we haven't really done anything much with the model, but we have the view controllers, which are controllers. And basically, if we want one part of the program to do something for another part, for example, the view, since it shouldn't really do any calculation, may ask the view controller or the model to do that, to do calculation for it. And then it will use the method that's provided by the delegate, which might be in the view controller, for example, to do the job. So it will there'll be code in there, and then it'll say, okay, I need this particular method done for me, and who will do it? And one of the other parts of the program will say, I'll do that for you, and so it's the delegate. So anyway, you'll be learning about how to use that pattern. Okay, you have any questions about what I just went over?
So with the storyboards, I've noticed in the videos that it's kind of like 50-50. You make the button on the storyboard, but then you give it its actual functionality through the code. Is that how we should be programming as we go?
Well, the storyboard is really good for setting up original settings for views, to figure out how the program should look when the UI should look when you first start up. But of course, since you're just setting it up in one place there, you can't really handle what's going to happen dynamically for the most part. So generally, you set up your original values in the storyboard and the way the view looks, but changes that you're going to make during the course of the program are going to have to be made in the code. So there's usually sort of a mixture between the two, and
Okay.
that one lesson is on interfacing between the code and the storyboards. So yeah, you will be doing some of both.
So in week 1, it was kind of like, because we just had such a broad overview over, storyboards and their functionality, it was kind of like a WYSIWYG editor, but that's not the case at all.
Well, it is kind of WYSIWYG, but it's then connected to code as well.
Okay.
Okay.
No, I think that's. Let me make sure I don't have anything in my notes that I haven't already asked you.
It can get a little confusing sometimes because like you're doing some things in code and you're doing some things with the storyboards, but there are certain things that if you're using storyboards, you should do it one way, and if you're using code, you should do it another way. So you'll kind of be learning that as you go. So pay attention in the video to which way it's done.
Okay, and so with this, we start with the first view controller.m, and then whenever we create the second view, it's okay. Whenever we do the second view, do we just name it like view controller 2 or event view controller? Are we going to
you want to name it something that, preferably something that gives an idea as to what its function is going to be, like create event .h in this example, because that's what you're doing, right? You're creating an event, and then in the first view you can just leave the first view named viewController.h and .m, which is what the system creates for you. But the first view is a list view, basically, of the events. And then the second view is you're creating events, so you can call it add event or create event or something like that. It's always good to give things names that give some idea of what they're doing.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions?
No, not for this week so far.
So far.
I'm still getting through everything, so.
Great. Well, let me know if you run into any trouble, and I'm going to go on and start talking about the stuff for AOC2 now. So you don't need to stay for that unless you would like to.
Okay. No, I think I should probably not get myself any more, confused. So thank you, and we'll see you next week.
Great. Night.
Good night.
Okay, so if you are in AOC2, you're going to be learning about UI text view, which is a multiple line text input field, UI picker view, and in particular the UI date picker, which allows you to pick dates from a sort of an interface that looks something like a combination locks interface where you have several columns of information that you can roll through and set up a date. The picker view works in a similar manner. It's actually a sub or a super view of, well, the date picker is an example of a UI picker view. A UI picker view can be set up to do things other than dates. Any kind of a lot of different kinds of information can be displayed in those columns and then rolled through to connect and make selections. The UI scroll view, which allows you, of course, to scroll around on the screen to move through bigger views than you are able to get on any one screen at a time. Then we have Prepare for Segue, which talks about moving from, or excuse me, talks about passing information and variables from one view to another. And that's about it for week 3. Okay, so thanks for attending or watching, and let me know if you have any trouble with anything, and try to let me know as early as possible so that you have time to make corrections. And good luck this week.